and welcome to this seminar jointly organized by the Center for European Policy Studies and Google on a topic of online privacy. We are a bit late already on schedule because I think food was abundant and good, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I also was struck by the demonstration I got on Google's personal history search and book search. So we already have a lot of fun. Now it's time to discuss the serious things. And let me just express, gratitude to all of you who have come to listen to this seminar. I think that the topic is really hot and interesting. We're going to hear different views from different speakers and from that work on this issue. Online privacy is becoming very interesting also for the areas that are covered by the Center for European Policy Studies increasingly. We are a generalist think tank, and we work mostly on European issues, but increasingly we do work on global ICT policy issues and innovation, research, competition policy, privacy issues, and everything that is linked to the what we call the digital era in particular. So we are very happy to be teaming up with Google, one of the key players in this field, to hear the views about what is becoming a key issue, not only from a user perspective, but also from a business perspective, and for the policymakers who are probably increasingly facing difficulties in trying to find out how to deal with privacy issues in the online world. So I will not comment further on this because we have three very authoritative speakers. The first of them to take the floor will be Peter Hustinx. Oh, needs no presentation, but I will introduce him anyway. He's the European Data Protection Supervisor, so he's probably Mr. Privacy in Europe. And so we are very happy that you accepted our invitation, Peter, and I leave you the floor. Thank you. The format of this conference, just to clarify, we plan to have short opening statements of around 10 minutes, but then we expect reactions from the floor, so we expect a very lively reaction from you. So every question that pops up, take note, and please react at the end of the rounds of first speeches. So, Peter, thanks.
Okay. Thanks to CEPS. I'm delighted that this is not a subject I'm competent to deal with under supervision, but it is highly relevant in the advisory context, and that's how I approach it. Let me first say very clearly that I have no shade of doubt in my mind that privacy in the digital age is becoming more relevant instead of less relevant. And that applies to offline and online alike. This is because it is a fundamental human need, it's a fundamental right, it makes a lot of business sense, and so forth and so on. And so we simply have to deal with it. I do not subscribe to those who say, no privacy, get over it. I do not buy that at all. I think that is a narrow vision, it's ill-informed. So that's where I start from. Then before we have to discuss reconsidering policy options, let alone changing present approaches, of course, the world is changing, so some change is involved. We have to consider what the existing framework provides. And let me just briefly make a number of points. We have in Europe a legal framework which is in a directive. It applies to all actors with an establishment in Europe, wherever they act, and it applies to all actors which use means in Europe, wherever they act. So that's pretty global to start with. That is, rules of jurisdiction provide attachment points. That's the General Directive 95/46. We have on top of that some additional rules on providers and networks, but that's the existing rules. And I want to make the point that kicks in a very large part of what we're talking about, because this doesn't happen just as nature happens. Even climate change is something we can react on and act on. But this is done, this is organized, it's architecture structured by people, real companies, so we can also deal with whatever happens online. Now, in brief point, this is not Europe alone. there is an increasing number of French-speaking or Spanish-speaking countries around the world which are acting along these lines. But we also see a surprising overlap in substance with OECD principles which are being reconfirmed over and over again and applied in different parts of the world, ranging from Canada to New Zealand and Australia. And if we look at the APEC framework, it's also interesting that is a very pragmatic approach to allow some late starters to step in. But of course, countries like Canada, Australia, and New Zealand didn't want a bit to give away from what they were doing for their citizens. In fact, it gives additional protection when Australian data move to Vietnam, etc., etc. So I see a very great overlap, and the emphasis in these existing principles then is to make them work, to implement them, to just take them into account, and part of that is also enforcement. So the present emphasis, this is a Commission position which I fully support. Let's put the energy in making it work better. And part of that is just facing consequences. So I'd like to see some action. And I should mention to you that just these days, this morning, the 29 group, you know the jargon, the regulators group, privacy in Europe, are discussing search engines as an interesting subject, and they have planned to finalize a report, say, in the early 2008. That's probably the first quarter. Now that's where we are with the existing framework. This is not a void. There is substantial guidance, and it needs to be applied. And we have an experience also of important players who have found it important to comply, even if they were not to the fullest subject to this jurisdiction. So this is a relevant jurisdiction, and I'd like to see some compliance. In terms of future framework, let me also say that change is unavoidable, but it shouldn't take the energy now. We should at least not take away from implementation, but I would expect that some 5 years down the road, we need to see some changes in the existing framework. Where? Not in the principles, although some parts perhaps need to be revisited. My emphasis would be we need more flexible arrangements to make it work better, to make it more effective. That is, maybe needed some administration around it, could be simplified. Not to free space, but to make protection more effective. So I'm thinking of developing, that's an interesting idea from the APEC framework, I'm quoting it all the time. That is the accountability principle. So if we can make important players accountable wherever they act, that's very much in line with what we already have. I think we could enhance that. And that accountability goes with responsibility and liability, no doubt. I would like to see some real privacy-enhancing technology deployed on the net, because that is the architecture we need to have this online privacy safe and dependable. I'd like to also see some possibilities for legal action, not only to persons involved, person affected, but maybe also other actors. Maybe in the commercial marketplace they could act to protect privacy because they're investing in privacy, which is so important on the net. Don't make this a monopoly of data protection authorities. I'd like to see some investment in third-party quality control, auditors and things like that, to demonstrate that all this architecture is indeed deployed and working. Finally, 2 final points. I still think that data protection authorities have a crucial role in that context, but they need to be more selective. They need to be able to concentrate on main problems, have heavy sanctions if things go wrong. Courts will also be involved. Some colleagues have a big problem in being too straitjacketed in their legal frameworks. And finally, I think we will need to inform users very much. Some of them are terribly naive, and we need empowered users which are able to protect their rights, and then we have a system of more diversity, which is really challenging, and I think it will face the need for more differentiation in the future. And we'll see then that privacy is going to be a key issue on this online, also offline world of ours, which is developing into digital age. That's my starting comment.